which is very, very good to have. Because if you write both abstract and summary is a more detailed part of the abstract. But sometimes when I get the summary and I see the abstract, I sometimes want to swap them. And that's because you start with something and then when you have to detail it, it becomes better actually. But the best thing is that you can use one part as an abstract and the summary you can use as conclusions. Something you conclude with. You have to rewrite it a bit, but it's very, very good to do that. And the table of contents, you actually tell, this is the structure I want of my thesis. How do I want to start? Where should I start? What should I tell about? Okay, you have background. What is needed in the background? What is the theory? The methods. What are the methods we have used? What do I need to write here in the first place? What is methods for you? And then you start to talk about your own work. How did you do it? Where do you start? Where do you start to present it? And what you should do is to start to, how did you approach your project? Where did you start? Yes, you did start at the company maybe. But how did you start the project? Well, you listen to the requirements. So the requirements is actually the first start of your own project. And very, very often I see people miss requirements because, well, I got it from the company. Yeah, but what did the company say? They wanted, and all these parts are requirements that you need to implement. So if you think about the working process, the very first part, the initial study, is to get the requirements. So that's where you start. And also another thing you should think about when you get the requirements, you're listening to what they say. But what happened then? Well, you read a little bit, and then you need to get more requirements. Because probably you didn't understand what they said from the beginning. So it becomes an iterative process in the initial study. Getting more requirements, understanding the requirements, and what do you do then is that you interview the people at the company because you ask questions. That's an interview, and that is a data collection method. So then in the method part should be about interviews and how you did them. So even though you think you haven't even started yet, you have. Because as soon as you got the requirements from the company, you started. Okay? And those are in the method parts. So absolutely. But we will also come back to that, so I a little bit went in beforehand. But the study should be also in the abstract saying, we did this study and the results. Okay? Any more questions about that? Nope. Is it a lot of information? Yes, I know. So, and therefore we will divide this up to 3 lectures, so, yep. Anyway, so if you look at the structure then, I said the hourglass of the whole thesis is actually, you have the parts that are introduction to it, the introduction and the theoretic background. And here you also should have related work. So theoretic background is where you start to describe all the definitions you use. Other people's definition and your own definition. And you are entitled to have your own definition. It's okay, as long as you show where it comes from. The difference between theoretical background and related work. The background is the theory that you take from others that defines or is a description of your definitions that you use in your project. Related work is somebody had done almost identically what you have done, but in a little bit different way. So you should tell everybody else that done very, very similar to what you have done and chosen, and show what they did and what you did. And it's not only the difference, it's also the similarities. So for instance, if you have somebody who had done a lot of similarities, or used a little bit of what you did, and almost the same we say, but something differs, you show all the things that are similar, and then you say, but we chosen to it in this way. We chosen to do it in another language, or we chosen to do it in another programming method, or whatever. What's the difference? But you need to tell both. So you see the difference between related work and background? So this definition, this is what is related to your own work, very similar, and you argue what you used and what you did not use. That's the difference. This chapter should be a lot of references. For everything you claim, it should be a reference or 2 or 3. The more, the better. Okay? And then we have the scientific methods, development models and methods. You don't have to have the scientific methods, because on the bachelor level, you don't do that. That's on the master level. But you have to have these development models that you use. And if you did use data collection method, that should absolutely be here. If you did interview the people at the company, which you probably did. And then you have a presentation of what you did. And this is, you see, it's a jump between 4 and 7. And that is because when you present what you did, one chapter is not enough. You have to have several chapters. One should be how you come up with the thing. The second should be something about what you did. This is the result. And the third should be something, if you have like a system, a prototype, one may be just about the code and everything. Don't show the code. Nobody will understand it anyway. And the other one may be about the interface. So that's the third chapter. So you divide them into 3 to get a balance. And the reason is we talk about balanced thesis, meaning that each and every chapter should be about 5 pages long. About 5 to 7 pages. If you have 5 pages in the first, the other one should also be about the same. So don't use different, because if a reader gets like 15 pages in a chapter, it will be hard to read those. So think about when somebody's going to read your thesis, try to make it short, compact, than a lot of very nice words. So short, compact, and divide the chapter in a very nice, smooth way. So I've seen chapters that it's like 20, 30 pages. It's like, oh my God, oh, it's a lot of information. You think this lecture is a lot of information. You can think about when you read 30 pages, it's a lot of details.
So it's in this chapter we also present like results?
Yes.
The analysis?
Yes, and the evaluation. Yeah. The conclusion, sometimes it should be conclusion and further work, actually. That's my fault, so it should be further work here. You sometimes in a conclusion can also have the evaluation. So you tell what you did and then you evaluate it. The evaluation here depends on what you evaluate. If you evaluate this product or the system, then the evaluation should be in contact with that. So it should be close to it. But if it's the whole material you evaluated, it should be in the conclusion. So it depends what you evaluate. And usually when you evaluate the whole thing, it's a new product. It's totally new. You don't have any really to use. Then the background is very important in the evaluation. But if you have something that you can see a lot of similar things, you should only evaluate this part. So for instance, if you come up with methods or a model or models, then you want to have evaluation here because it's based on background with other models or methods that are similar. But if you evaluate a prototype or a system or something, then you use it here because then it's just for that system. So it depends a little bit. So both works. Okay, there's 1 million ways or more to write one thesis for exactly the same that you're doing. So we talk about good ways or better. So we try to just stay out of how we should not do it. We try to just help you with how you should do it to get the best thesis for your work. So, and that's a little bit problematic, but you can't say it is in this way, because it never is. It can always be in different ways. Anyway, so the structure is that these parts are the first introduction part, then it comes in more detail, and then it comes in your, what the results are. The references and appendix are